and then did it again because it's not working. Cold is almost gone. I don't know if you can hear what sounds like somebody trying to drill their way into a bank vault. If you if you can hear that, I don't live in a bank. And I my apartment is at the end of the building, and it sounds for all the world like they're on the outside trying to come in, and I don't know why they would do it that way because there's a perfectly decent elevator in the lobby. Of course that's part of the theme today. Of course it's a secret I'm going to reveal. I'm just going to take a sip of coffee because I can, actually. Now, today, with luck, hope, hope, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, wave, wave, we may have people. Good morning, Freddie. Oh, how I'm so glad to see your face and your words. We may have people joining us for the first time today who are members of a very large, very active, very dynamic group on Facebook called 70s and 80s Memory Lane. And Amy Makepeace, who oversees this, has done and continues to do a stellar job of bringing ideas and talented people to the group so that there's a really lovely, informal, interactive conversation between the people who did the work and the people who enjoyed the work. And now what are we all doing moving forward? And when she invited me to join a short while ago, I said, how wonderful. Well, good morning, Susan. When Amy asked me to join a few months ago, I was very pleased, and we had a great couple of conversations because she's like anybody working on the fringes of the biz. Good morning, Leighton. Taking your show on a walk in Gatineau. Well, all right. I hope it doesn't rain. Don't know what it is today. Maybe it's not enough coffee. This group has a lot of people. And I asked her if I could reach out and say, so I'm going to be doing a cool thing on Thursday. I mean, I do these videos twice a week, but this one's kind of cool. Do you think it would be all right if I just announced it? So she said, of course, and which was lovely. And so we may have more people we haven't seen before, in which case, if you are there, welcome. This is my office. This is where I hang my hats. This is where I do my work. And this is where Mom lives, kind of in the background with me. So why I do these videos, for those of you who are just joining me, two reasons. One is they're fun. It gives me an opportunity to remind you that I used to be on camera. And two is they are the introduction to what I really hope is going to be a fabulous shift in your lives when you work with me on this project, on this concept called Pivotry in Motion. The idea that came to me sort of around the time of the pandemic was that we actually know how to respond and reset when surprises happen. We don't know how we know. We don't know that we can on demand because it's always just been sort of a knee-jerk, spontaneous thing with us. It's a survival mechanism, normally. But in people, because we have a couple of extra things going on, it's more than survival. It is a way for us to take the situation and find a way to get in front of it, to own the outcome. So it's not mere survival, it's thriving. How to take a situation that has come at us from nowhere we were planning and see what we have in our arsenal that gives us the ability to turn the tables, to create our outcome instead of their outcome. So we become owners rather than spectators. We become participants leading the charge rather than followers chasing up in the rear, hoping that the leader knows where they're going before we get hopelessly lost. And so, in my definition of pivotry in motion, I started with the word pivot. A pivot is an abrupt turn. Pivot, right? It's not a casual slalom thing going on. A pivot is abrupt, sudden usually, and typically in response to something. We don't often do that for no particular reason. Something has triggered us. And when that trigger happens, we call it a pivotal moment because we were thinking this and all of a sudden an oven. And how we respond to that, how we react or do we respond? Do we look at it and say, "Oh, I can make tacos"? I wasn't planning on making them in the back of the flatbed truck, but we work with what we have. So a pivot takes place at a pivotal moment. Pivotry is our strategy. Pivotry is our intention, our plan, and our path to end around, disrupt, interrupt, override, reset, and own and win. Pivotry is what we do in every situation we come to. Because it is mostly a subconscious thing, we're not aware of it. We don't think about it. And when we feel overwhelmed by too many things coming at us from too many directions, too suddenly, all at once, we tend to feel uh, that we don't have the equipment. We don't know what to do. We didn't get the instructions. We wouldn't know what to do with them if we had. And the thing is that we actually do. But because we don't know anything about it, we weren't present and thinking when we began to learn it, we're not even there aware that it's there. I, on the other hand, military brat, yoinked all over the world, upside down, backwards, and sideways, all the way through my life. And then I decided for a change of pace, I'd go into show business. and more of similar confusion ensued. As a result, I'm very good at it. I not only know how we do it, I not only know where we store all these different qualities that we have, I know how to retrieve them, I know how to use them, because I've taught this skill for years and years and years to my students, to my fellow actors, to my colleagues, to my clients, to my friends. And now I'm formalizing it, I'm calling it a thing. I'm creating the tools, I'm planning the workshops, I'm building the whole consulting concept, and I'm going to offer it to people who are interested and ready to take ownership of the next things they're going to do. It's kind of a fly and be free. Follow me. So that's the plan. That's why we're here. That's what the underlying purpose for all these videos is to give you tidbits, bite-sized bits and pieces of information that help you get ready for when the avalanche of books, there's going to be 7, and training tools appear this year. Cool, huh? I think so. So today's video subject was a deliberate hook. I know a secret. It's very cool. Want to hear what it is? Shameless. Vikings invented fishing. The thing is that I'm not kidding. I do have a very cool secret, and I am going to share it with you. And it's funny when I explain it, because the longer you think about it, you realize how incredibly true it is. And as soon as you know it, as soon as you see it, you own it. How awesome is that? Okay, so little sip for my throat. I'm sorry. I'm also scratchy. It's this cold. I think it was a stress cold. I gotta tell you, that's such a good idea. Okay, So there are three parts to this secret, and they are all elements of our perception that we have no power, that we are at risk, that we are helpless, that there are forces that we are constantly coming into contact and conflict with. This secret, when you see it, when you see these three elements, you will say, huh, would you look at that? Okay. All right. So, part one, everyone has heard the expression, life throws us curveballs, right? Yeah. Life threw me another curveball the other day. Wow. What a day. What a week. What a month. Boy, was I scrambling. Okay. Except that life doesn't throw things. Life is the process, is the trajectory that we are on from the minute we arrive until the minute we leave. So it's our experience of our time here. It is ours to own. So when we say life threw a curveball at me, we are effectively saying the path I'm standing on leaned up and bit me, which unless you were walking on alligators, hardly likely. So why do we say that? Why do we say life threw me a curveball? Why does it feel as though the hurrieder we go, the behinder we get? What is it that makes us feel ill-equipped? Why does it feel like everything comes at us, surprise, without any warning? I mean, here we are minding our own business. Why do we feel that way? And I'm going to tell you the reason we feel that way. It's because we are the ones who triggered the avalanche. We we generate the curveballs. It's us. We we are our life, and therefore, if our life throws us a curveball, it's us. It's us doing it. Why the hell would we do that? Well, we don't mean to. What happens is we get busy and we don't think things through. There's a part of the brain that doesn't develop until late teens, early 20s, and some people not ever. It's called executive function. It's here. The area is called the prefrontal cortex. So, cortex, frontal, pre. So, this part of the brain comprehends cause and effect. If I do this, I get that. If I stay up late drinking and partying the night before my final exam, you see where I'm going with this. Before that ability develops, before we understand, also explains why everybody in the 10th grade or early university keeps showing up hungover for exams because it's not developed. So how do we fix that? Can we fix that? Is it not something that's just kind of developing? I mean, can we create a longer arm? Sure. See? Look at that, longer. One hand, bigger hand. It's perception. How can we feel that we are in control of these curveballs that we throw? We teach ourselves, we develop habits, we create a routine to make the habits repeatable and unconscious in the same way that we taught our subconscious brain how to drive the car for us when we're on the highway. We teach ourselves to say, and then what happens when we have an idea? Hey, you know what? We can do this, and we'll get that. And the question we teach ourselves to ask is, and then what happens? What do you mean? Okay, if we do this and we get that, what does that create as a ripple effect? Does that affect anybody in a detrimental way? If we can teach ourselves to do that, what we are doing is we are taking ownership and planning ahead for our outcomes so that we are driving the bus called our life. We're not sitting in the back saying, I hope they know how to take a hard turn. We can own this weird thing we do, which is have a spontaneous idea and act on it because it seems like such a great idea. It is a great idea. It's great to have spontaneous ideas. It's great to act on them. It's great to say, tally ho, as long as we say, and then what happens? My dad, when I was in Europe and I was old enough for him to feel safe letting me out of the house after dark, and all my friends were going out, my dad would say, you have no curfew. I just want you to do one thing, whatever it is you're going to choose to do. Imagine how it would feel if what your choice turned out to be ended up front page news that I got to read in the morning. And then the size of the horror of that potential embedded itself in my brain so firmly that I still wince when I even think about him saying that. I can hear his voice. I can see the look in his eye, that friendly smile that was bone chilling and blood curdling. And I've never forgotten it, clearly, because what he was saying was, be aware. And then what happens? Because if it's okay, you think it's going to be okay, and you come home and it was a fairly colorful disaster, I will say, and how did you feel that was going to work for you? And you will explain, and we will have a discussion. Because once we do, that particular knee-jerk reaction won't happen again. And all of a sudden, life will not throw you very many curveballs that you generate. Now, I had a series of curveballs that I navigated, dodged, climbed over, ran to catch up with as a result of getting hacked, which could we say I didn't have enough safety protocols? Probably. Was I paying attention? Probably not. Run to the bank fixes, the bank does the best it can, gives me the documents I need. I race around and hand out the documents to everybody who needs them. Did I follow up and make sure that everybody had received the documents and knew what to do with them? No. And then what happens? Well, and then what happened was that one of the people who didn't do what they should do with the document caused me the utmost astonishment on my birthday when a bailiff showed up at my apartment building intending to repossess my car for no reason that was of any fault of mine, except that, oh, yes, it was. Oh, yes, it was, because I didn't ask in that moment. And then what happens? So part one of the very cool surprise is that the phrase, and then what happens, becomes your most prized power tool to eliminate, diffuse, tame the curveballs that come sometimes because of us, other times because they were triggered by someone else and they have ricocheted off something, and here they are. And what do? If we know that they can come, if we know that they do come, then we are ready, and we, because this is the next part of it, know that we know how to manage them, cope with them, ride them, preempt them. And that changes everything about the way we feel about who we are and how amazing our life really is. And then what happens? Very, very cool, surprise, secret phrase that gets us out from behind and in front. That's part one. Do you like that? Is that not amazing? I love that one. Okay, hang on a sec. Part two. We think of the things that overwhelm us as big. Because, by the way, I'm this size, and if a thing is overwhelming me, then, I'm this big, therefore it must be bigger. And so we think of things that interrupt, that overwhelm, that terrify, that give us joy, that transport us from where we are to where we didn't know we were going to be. We think of them as big. I'll tell you the truth. They don't start out big. They start out small. And they gain momentum. And if they are hurtful, unhelpful, confusing, painful, embarrassing, exhausting, unhappy, overwhelming, tragic, we were part of their creation. The reason we were part of their creation is that when they were small, we did nothing at all. Oh yeah, it's nothing. That's nothing. I can get to that later. Yeah, I know. I know. I can get to it later. And then I wake up sounding like George Raft. I sound like the voice of doom with the stuffy nose. Participants leading the charge. Yes. My maternal grandfather had his curfew rule for my mom and my aunts. Never let the sun beat you. Oh, I love that one, Freddie. So the small things become big when we do nothing at all. When we don't take the time to examine them. When we have our minds on something else, or we're juggling because we think we can multitask. And we see that, and it's not particularly interesting, and it doesn't smell good, and it doesn't look cuddly, and it's the wrong color. And we say to ourselves, oh yeah, okay, I know, I'll get to it. And then we don't, because a whole bunch of other things say, oh, well, if you're not busy, how about me? Pick me, pick me. And we put it off, and we put it off, and we put it off, and all of a sudden, an oven. Why do we do that? Why don't we take care of them? Why don't we look at these things and say to ourselves, what if that's not really a thing to do? What if that's a lesson? What if that's something with really cool information inside? What if it's exciting? Maybe instead of just brushing it off and saying, why don't we just take a second, have a look? Make a coffee, sit down and take a look. Because when we leave it and we leave it and we leave it. Good morning, Julie. Good morning, beautiful souls. When we leave things because we have more important things to do, that's a whole ego thing. If a thing presents itself, if we find ourselves looking at something and we say, wonder what that is, and then we don't explore it, Why aren't we curious? Why aren't we curious? Why don't we want to know? Something new on the horizon, different smell in the air, little rustle in the bushes over there. It's a small rustle, so it's probably nothing. We'll wait for the big rustle with the loud grunt that goes with it. Then we'll deal with it, because of course we'll be ready. So, how do we fix that? How do we give ourselves the kind of reward it requires to take care of the small things while they're small? And I have to tell you that I just want to hang on a second. I just have to see this here for a second. Yeah. The reason we don't take care of them is because we don't take the time to consider what happens when we don't. We don't look at the story that those things represent. If I have a pile of garbage to take down to the recycler and I put it just inside the door because I'll take it with me the next time I go, except that something came up and something came up and I had my hands full, so I just kicked it to one side and meant to do it next time, and then meant to do it the time after that. And every time I had something new to go to the recycler, I just added it to the pile. And all of a sudden, there was this huge pile of stuff that needed to go to the recycler. And there was a fire alarm, and I needed to get my coat because it was chilly out, and I couldn't reach my coat right away because there was this huge pile of garbage in front of the closet door. Not that we're going to live our lives saying, oh my gosh, what if, what if, what if, what if? The answer to how do we take care of the little things is this. The minute I take care of it, a big thing will become small. The minute I fix this, put it together, take it where it's supposed to go, now, in this moment, the next thing either doesn't happen or it is manageable because it's so small. This is what is called a preemptive strike. So the first question we ask ourselves is, and then what happens? The second question we ask ourselves is, why not? Why not? No, I'll take it later. Take it now. No, why not? What are you doing that's so important? What are you doing that's so important? Why not? That's the second question. What have you made a priority that may not be a priority at all? And you know what a priority can be? The current comfort zone. I'm feeling lazy. I've got coffee. I just sat down. I don't want to get up again. I don't want to get up again. Right? We do it all the time. I am the poster child for this. Ask me if there's a bag of recycling garbage waiting beside the door to the apartment to go downstairs. Go ahead. Go ahead, ask me. Maybe. I keep telling I keep telling my clients, they say, how are you so good at this? And I say, practice. Abby Haggard, you are looking quite lovely today. Well, thank you, darling. I try. You know, I just fall out of bed looking like this. Lean to the left to avoid the lightning for that one. Effortlessly lovely. In a minute. Oh, dear. Abby, do you think that people chose not to take care of the little things because then they have to let go of the little thing like cleaning it? box that has me. Ha! Oh, Susan, thou art wise. Do you think we postpone the chore because it might? Do you think that we postpone the chore because we would put away the thing we adore? You think so? I think you're probably right. And if that isn't actually why we do it, it's a great excuse. It's a great excuse to give us a pass. So I think that what we are You're welcome. You know the Viking motto, give, give, give. So the third thing that is the great and mystical, oh my, you're kidding me, that is part 3 of this, is a conversation that I had actually with Susan. And it was part of a conversation I overheard. And I said, I'm going to take that and run with it like the wind. Oh my God, because it changes everything. So part 3 of this really cool secret. And by the way, the secret, the discovery hidden in the secret that I am revealing today, in case I haven't been clear, in case I'm leaping all over the map, is the goal is to find the handle on it, whatever it is, and figure out how to use it with help from somebody who knows. Figure out what to do and how to win. How to be the best version of us and enjoy the moment when we reach the place we wanted to be. How we do that? We do that by discovering the secret things that we've kept from ourselves that allow us to recognize that there are very few things standing in our way, that we are the ones who have placed them there. Not on purpose. Not because, yes, nudges are awesome. Viking nudge, boof. Uh, my brilliant, my brilliant friend and former colleague, Andrea, who is an incredible therapist, she she once said to me, you actually have the makings of being a therapist. And I said, oh, sure. Yeah, Viking therapy. I clip them behind the ear and then tell them to pay me. And she said, well, yes, the technique needs a bit of finessing, but the elements are there. So part 3 in this amazing, cool secret about how much power we actually have to do all the things we want to do is this. We have always heard and always talked about and always conversed using this expression. It's a jungle out there. We've all used it. Where's the handle and how do I use it? Never hold the fork by the pointy end. I had a tennis coach once who said, yeah, hold it by the handle. Don't stick your fingers in the mesh. While there's a lot more mesh, it's harder to hit the ball with the little thing at the end. Mostly that's called golf. Me. Oh, yeah. So back to the jungle. It's a jungle out there. Oh, it sure is. Boy, oh boy. Except that we're not living in it. We're not living in a jungle. We have opted out of the jungle. we've moved on up to the east side. We're living on Easy Street. We may not think so, but if we airlifted you and dropped you in a jungle, you would immediately see the error in your assumption. The reason we're not living in a jungle, the reason I know we're not living in a jungle, the reason our assumption that it's a jungle out there and you got to be fit, you got to take control, can't let your emotions get away from you, da 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 da. Okay. The reason I know that this and this don't connect, and that the things people are saying to us, you got to do more to be more, most of that is empty. The reason I know that is that since the mid 1960s, we have increasingly removed demands to achieve from the way we raise ourselves and our children. We have made things easy. We have made things simple. I was listening to the brilliant Gary Vaynerchuk the other day. He was having a conversation about some parents who come to him often at his events. And the parents were saying, my kids aren't tough. I got to toughen them up. What do you advise, Gary? What do you advise? They need grit. They need the will to win. And Gary said that his reply consistently is, take them off the payroll. You can't make people anything, but you can't lead them to toughness if you keep handing them a cookie for nothing and your chicks are free. And he said, Gary continued, and he said, you know where we've devolved to? There is such a thing as an 8th place award for excellence. 8th place certificate of excellence. What is that? And then he said, brilliant, he said, we're not living in the jungle. We've built ourselves a zoo. And we are not facing any of the hurdles that the jungle provides, the lessons. We've eliminated as much of that as we possibly can. When we came back from Europe and I was down in the States, I attended junior college down there. And I realized it was an extraordinary thing. They were using my 10th grade textbooks in junior college. So in Canada, there's 13 grades in high school if you go in the accelerated program. So, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 5 years of learn how to work and think and plan kind of on your own. They were graduating people out of high school using our 10th grade textbooks. And the reason I wasn't allowed to stay in that college was because they couldn't grade me on their bell curve. In the English literature class, the only 2 people in the room who knew what a sentence was and what was in it were the teacher and the girl who just got back from Europe. I read a thing the other day, last week, that people are having to, when they go to college, the first thing they have to do is take a literacy qualifying test at the beginning of the year. A literacy qualifying test for college. Okay. So that began in the mid 60s. So the mid 60s. Really? Do you want to count some decades with me? 60. Mid 60s, mid 70s, mid 80s, mid 90s, mid 2000s, mid 2000 teens. And we are entering the mid 20s. That's a couple of generations of teachers, of mentors, of people we learn from as children and mirror their actions and reactions and thoughts and feelings and ideas and intentions and purposes and ambitions and focus, because that's how we teach our children. That's how this whole process works. It's 50 plus years ago. It's 60 years almost. So it's not my parents. It's not their parents. It's my great grandparents who knew what it was to live without everything handed to us on a plate. Do we invite those wise people to our homes and sit at their feet and listen to them? No. Your old grandma. I'm going out with my friends. Nobody does it that way anymore. We don't revere what they know. We don't learn what they do. We don't ask how. Oh gosh, there's Grandpa talking about the war again. Yeah, I know, the Great War. Yeah, the war to end all wars. Yada yada yada. I'm gonna play Nintendo. I'm gonna go out. I got stuff to do in the zoo. Gary Vaynerchuk is also saying they did a study quite a few years ago. The Bronx Zoo. You have to imagine the reaction on everybody's face, right? You just have to imagine the reaction when I tell you what they did. The Bronx Zoo would collect animals, have them in the zoo for a period of time, and then send them back, thinking, thank you so much, and now we're returning you to your loved ones, to your regularly scheduled programming. Bye. Yeah. So these animals that had been chowing down in a zoo for a month, 6 months, a year, are airdropped in the Serengeti, and they're dead within 24 hours. Why? They had no idea that they were in a jungle. And all the predators said, hey, how you doing? Free lunch. Didn't even have to chase him. He was sitting there. So the conversation about this is, two of my grand gifts are studying 2 grade levels above their age. Oh yeah. 50 years of this. That's why I enjoyed being an occupational therapist in the nursing homes. The stories were amazing. Yes. Oh my God. The wealth of storytelling there. Wow. So if we don't know we're in a zoo, we assume, yeah, I got it covered. Please. And the conversation that I heard the other day, and then I realized after I'd heard it once, I'd heard it a lot of times. I realized that among my many friends who have children, because I had children brought to me at the television station, and I behaved in that adorably inept way that I did for 6 hours along with Leslie, and then somebody would take the children to their homes, and there was no interaction of a raise the children and empower them with life wisdom going on. Maybe little bits here and there by accident, but they were pretty convinced that I was actually mom. I did a fairly good job. Sometimes I would be saying something relatively intelligent. Some kid would be walking by and saying, who told you that? I said, nobody told it to me. It's me. Huh, really? And they'd walk away shaking their heads, she got a couple of balls in the air there. So secret number 3 is we don't think we're coddled. We don't think we are helpless in the face of genuine crisis. We don't think it would be that hard. And the reason we have those assumptions and they get in our way and make the small things big is because no one has taught us otherwise. We have simply copied what we saw. We learn by imitation. Somebody shows us how to get food onto a weapon of construction, off the plate, and most of it in our mouth. That's how we learn to eat. It's how we learn to tie our shoes and go to the bathroom and climb stairs in both directions and put on clothes and have conversations and decide that that boy or girl is cute. We learn all that stuff by mirroring the behaviors of the people who are our teachers. Even when our teachers have no idea what they're doing because they are following the same. Yikes. Julie just had a moment. Yikes. So, if they don't know what they're doing, and they said, don't you worry your little head about it, I got it. You follow in my footsteps, you can't go wrong. My father told me, and his father told him, and what was good enough for them is good enough for me. Yes, but it's wrong. It's stupid. Don't you talk to me like that. Okay. So now we are in a dilemma of some kind. The people that we relied on, leaned on, trusted to keep us safe, it turns out they weren't really given instructions that worked. They were given a place in a zoo. And essentially, when you think about it, everything was paid for, everything was provided for. All they had to do was hang out, chow down, ignore all the tourists, or perform for the tourists. What happens to people like that? They get fake it till you make it. Well, yeah. Except that if you fake it and you don't know the difference between failure and success, making it becomes the wet spot on the highway. And no matter what you do, it just keeps moving ahead of you. So, when I was growing up, my grandmother lived in my father's home with us. We lived on a farm and we had visiting relatives here around, lots of activities. So, when you live on a farm, the interesting thing is that we are perpetuating the zoo model because we are caring for the animals. The animals don't have to fend for themselves. We police the area. We put up fences. We put them inside at night so that the predators can't get them. We spray the fields so we put fertilizer in the soil so the plants have a better chance to grow. We are creating the zoo situation on our farms. It is not the real wild. We are not the Maasai walking behind the cows. We are organizing and constraining and controlling and shaping and putting in the little boxes. We are zooifying. Zooifying. New word. Zoo. I don't even know how to spell it. I've been zooified. So if we are zooifying and being zooified, we have no idea. We have no idea that that's what we're doing until we are faced with an oven. And I keep referring to the oven for the people who haven't seen the image that I refer to and the meme I put on social media. It's a picture of a truck parked by the side of the road with a flatbed that it's pulling. And on the flatbed is a disabled pickup truck. So truck pulling trailer with broken vehicle. On the broken vehicle, with the entire hood staved in, is an oven, a stove. Boof. And there's no human in the picture that we can see. But clearly the person pulling the truck and the trailer has gotten out of their vehicle to look at it and take the picture. And the caption is, suddenly, an oven. And every time I think of it and every time I say it, I'm picturing, you say, you hear anything? Woof. So if we don't have these occasional ovens, come at us, we prolong our feeling of happy, comfortable, complacent unawareness. I don't want to say ignorance. I don't even want to say innocence. We're facing the wrong way, that's all. And when we look at the trees and we look at the opportunities to graze and connect with the other animals, and there's always been that sort of thing there, whatever that is, and there's other kind of creatures on the other side, but they can't get through, so it's a different world. It's probably like television being on in the living room the whole time for them, right? It's just a show. Somebody should change the channel. Gosh, that's boring. And so if we don't know that and we don't pay attention to it and we don't wonder, then when we get a tornado, when we get a flash flood, when we get a drought, when we get an absolutely unprecedented storm with high winds and all kinds of dreck falling sideways on us, and we have our crews out getting ready to clean up and whatnot, but everything else, safety on the highways is out the window, getting to work on time is out the window, school buses are closed, school is closed, what do we do with the kids? Our life is upside down because our safe and sane and comfortable, organized, programmed, predictable, non-threatening every day is thrown for a loop. In those fleeting minutes, like catching a glimpse of something out of the corner of your eye, a sudden movement out of the corner of your eye. We've all had that happen. Those disasters, those surprise attacks, 9/11, not talking about who did what to whom or why. I'm saying 2 airplanes flew into 2 buildings. The coffee guy did not see that coming, I'll tell you. What the hell? And the first responders who responded stood there saying, oh, we're going to need a bigger boat. There's a mixed metaphor. Because why? Because nobody had attacked the United States, either from outside or within, to that magnitude since Pearl Harbor. That's a long time. That's a long time to not have to be ready for a potential threat. You can only stay ready and anxious and alert and facing forward like this for so long. Eventually, you need to go to the bathroom. And on the way back from the bathroom, you decide to stop for a snack. Why? Because we're raised in a zoo. We're not on high alert all the time. We get comfy. These pants don't fit. We are zoo animals. We are zoo creatures. We wouldn't know what to do in a jungle if it leapt out of the closet and bit us. Why not? Because we let the little things become big things. And we're busy. We have stuff we need to do. We have places we need to go. I mean, my God. So what is the question that we ask ourselves in the same way that we had question number 1 and we had question number 2? What is question number 3? Question number 1 was, and then what happens? And question number 2 was, why not? Why aren't we doing that? If it's not a big deal, why aren't we doing it? Why are we waiting for it to be a big deal? And question number 3 is, what if? What if? My 2 favorite lines in my romance novel, every time I think of them, the whole idea of the romance novel is fresh and new and giving me a Bugs Bunny kiss on the nose. The guy says to the girl, do you ever ask yourself, what if? And the girl says to the guy, only every other minute. It's the wonderful way. It's a wonderful way to start a romance. Somebody planting the seed of curiosity and the other person saying, yep, thank you. It's my favorite flavor, favorite color, and just the right size. Thank you. Do you ever ask yourself, what if? Is your answer only every other minute? Do you? If not, why not? Because if you don't, then what happens? Curveballs, inconvenience, confusion, exhaustion, self-doubt, self-loathing, toxic drama, 50 pounds gained by Friday. Well, I'm not getting any younger, you know. That's why I had to have my hip replaced. Or that stuff. I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. I am also aware of it. And therein lies the difference. I know the questions we need to ask. First question, and then what happens? Second question. Why not take care of it now? Why not? What's the worst that could happen? Do you ever ask yourself, what if? What if you said, what happens? What if you said, I'm doing it now? What if you chose to drive the bus that is your life? Do you ever ask? Do you ever say, only every other minute, are you hungry or bored? Was my conversation on Tuesday? Or is it door number 3? If you just don't have the energy. Door number 3 on Tuesday, when I talked about that, I also talked about the phenomenon that is wrongly called Taylor Swift. The phenomenon isn't Taylor. The phenomenon is all the people, all the generations, all the unlikely combinations of people who have said, I want more of that. Where do I sign? Where do I get my ticket? She could be singing into the wind and nobody cared. That's not the phenomenon. The phenomenon is how many people are bored with life in the zoo. And the answer is, holy liftin', hundreds of millions in every generation. They got a taste of what it's like to own it, and they love it, and they want more. So I guess the question today is, the secret is that I can share, is that life isn't throwing us a curveball. The curveball is the ride. The curveball is the swoosh. The curveball is the adrenaline rush. When we say, I'm in, show me how to do it. Let's get this done. Are you ready? Because I'm in the mood to spike a ball when I'm done. That's the secret. And the beautiful, wonderful thing about all of this that I'm saying to you is that we can be who we really are. We can step away from the trough in the zoo. We can say, it's going to cost me, and it's worth it. We can do that. Hundreds of millions of people right now are doing it, to listen to somebody, to feel the energy of someone, to be part of something that has never happened. Never. It's a first, and they're part of it, and they're excited. I'll tell you what's not going to be the same when they come back home after those events. The zoo looks real dull, and they're going to want more. And they are going to be the ones who say, you know what? You know what? I have an idea. And they're going to do it by the hundreds of millions. And it's about time. It's about time. How you change your life, your space, your world, your circle, your ripples, your goals and journeys and outcomes is one decision at a time. And the first decision, as I talk about in Pivotry, is the moment when the switch is flipped. And when you used to say it's not that bad, you find yourself saying it's not good enough. And then the adventure is on. And I want to help you discover where that lives in you. I want to help you say, oh, look at that. Oh, I haven't dusted in here in a while. I want to help you feel the excitement when you hear yourself, when you hear that little voice inside your head say, what if? I want to give you the opportunity to be standing there in that moment, aware that you are saying it and feeling how it feels. I want to help you, position you to be there for it full on. That's the plan. How do you help people who just, it hasn't scrolled up, Julie, so I can't see. How do we make that come up faster? Can't see. How do you, right? It'll come up, Julie, and I'll answer you. How do I help people? How do I help people? It's going to be in 3 ways, okay? We can certainly do things like this. We can have a conversation on a video. It's always great to be able to see the person because you get a sense of who they are and how they feel and what they're doing. And two of my survivors' super skills are these. I recognize patterns of behavior really quickly, and based on the patterns, I can, if this happened, it's likely it'll happen again, triggered by the similar thing. So I can kind of predict what is probably around the corner. And I watch the way people behave, and I look at the things that they do and the things that they have done. And it gives me the ability to put the pieces together, sort of like those FBI profilers. And I can therefore say to somebody, if this happened to you, then it's likely that this is why you do that. It's likely. It's not a guarantee, but it's likely. And they say, oh, I never really thought about that. Oh, I'd forgotten all about that because we're busy. So I do that to get people kind of looking at the steps in front of them with all the dust and the debris removed. So it's a clear thing. And then we talk about where it is they feel that they are. What they feel about it is not correct, doesn't suit them, doesn't fit them, maybe used to, doesn't now. And then we talk about, in a perfect world scenario. And then what happens? In a perfect world scenario, and then what happens? Well, then I'd like this. Okay. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think you would like it? I don't know, 8. Okay. Well, then let's see, using what you can do and how you like to do it and where you are, how we can give you the confidence and the tools to make it happen. And that's what we do. How do you help people who just don't seem to have the energy? That's not a root cause, darling. That's an outcome. Not having the energy is the exhaustion from trying too hard and not giving yourself a break and feeling overwhelmed and a little terrified by the fact that clearly you needed to have more information and it doesn't seem to be present. So exhaustion, lack of energy is like physical depression. The whole body brain just wants to lie down, face down on the cool kitchen floor. Maybe bring me a blanket and a sandwich at some point. So when you remove all the things that are draining and draining and draining and give you time to rest and perk up when you smell, is that chocolate? Is that an apple pie? Then you're ready to kind of open your eyes and sit up and say, I'm sorry, now where were we? So the energy is scared a bit. My brother had literally just joined the military and I thought he was going to have to go to war. Yeah. See, 9/11 is that 9/11 beauty is an example of catching a glimpse of the real world outside the zoo. Join the military. Yeah. Save the world. Holy shit. I had no idea it looked like that. Yeah. That's, this business of being raised in a zoo. You go to basic training, they teach you everything they possibly can to ready you for the reality. But until you're actually on the ground, in the ground, facing the reality, it's theory. And a lot of people who thought they were ready weren't ready. They weren't ready. And the overwhelm and the shock and the damage is what we see. The walking wounded when they come home. Nobody prepared them. We were all in a zoo. So, guided me through 5 books. And what and what an adventure that was, Miss Susan. 17-year-old is going to the Air Force, so happy but nervous. Yeah. The challenge is that we give people the freedom to make choices without giving them the information they need to make an informed choice. And so while they're a few steps in advance of cause and effect, they're making decisions about that when they can't see it, have no idea what it is, but they have an assumption based on video games they've played and conversations they've had with other inmates at the zoo. They have no clue. So what I do is I give you an opportunity to, like, there used to be a show called What Not to Wear, and they would put people in a room with a 360 mirror on camera. Somebody says, yeah, I don't mind being on camera, wearing my clothes and standing in front of a 360 mirror. There's a person who wasn't ready for the real world. They stand there on camera. They signed, okay. How bad could it be? It's a wonder that they can speak, Doors open and the hosts come in and they're standing there. I don't want to be on the show anymore, mommy. I want to go home. The object of the exercise is to get you to take 5 steps back. The object of the exercise is to get you to have an opportunity to see perspective, to see strategically. When you're not like this and you're like this, you have a greater opportunity to be more objective and say, well, that's not going to work. But when it's here, you say, well, how hard could it be? Because you can't see any of the consequences. Question number 1, and then what happens? I'm going to do this and this and this. And then what happens? Oh, you know what? I'll get to it later. You're not going to do it now? No, I'm busy. Why not? Why not? I'm busy. I've got stuff. What are you doing? What are you so busy at? Well, nothing. I just, you know what? I don't feel like it. Okay. And the third question. Have I ever asked myself, what if? Have I? Please let the answer be only every other minute. If we can get you through those three, then you're ready to sit down with me. And then we get to see what happens. So today, I am doing some last minute frantic spring cleaning. I'm working on parts of Pivotry, of course. I'm running a couple of errands. And then tomorrow, somebody that I have not yet met face to face, who has, you can't get on television common with me, has come in from way out of town to spend some time with a buddy in Ottawa, in my fair city. And he has always wanted to get a copy of Fame. And so he reached out a while ago and said, I think I'm going to be coming in the spring. Any chance I could meet you and get the book from you, signed by you? And I said, absolutely. So we talked yesterday. He was heading from Toronto to just across the river from where I am, where he's staying with his people. And I got a little message from him, a little conversation with him. And this morning, Leighton said, yeah, I'm taking you on a walk with me in Gatineau. So thank you, Leighton, for making this happen. And we are going to go on an adventure tomorrow and talk about the world as we see it and as we think it should be. And I'm really looking forward to it. So, and then of course I have a weekend. We have stuff. We all have stuff. So whatever it is that you're doing and wherever it is that you are, if you have the opportunity to think about the questions I've asked, if you have the opportunity to think about the fact that life does not throw us curveballs, we are life. We are the curveballs. That's the first thing. The second thing is the little things become big things if we let them. As soon as we take care of them, they're little again. That's how it works. So if it's oh my God, there's too many, I'm so overwhelmed. Okay, one at a time. One at a time. Take your time. Rest in between. And the third thing was, are you ready for the jungle out there? No? I got tools. We can make it happen. Thank you so much for watching. If you were new today, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like the fact that we do our best. We do our best to try and have conversations back and forth with each other and amongst the writers and the watchers. We try to make it an interactive community. We're going to do better and more as time progresses. I can't wait to be organizing the workshops and working with you one-on-one and giving you those moments where you go, huh, well, how long has that been there? I can't wait. Those are the most fun times. There's a lot of yelling and screaming and falling down and crying and kicking things on the way, but you know what? Learning curve stuff. Okay? Be good to you. You deserve it. Remember to hug your loved ones. And I will catch you next time. Thanks for watching.